Right. Welcome to the 15th lecture. We are studying ECD, Electronic Circuits Design. And in this lecture, we will study frequency response of multi-stage amplifiers. Multi-stage amplifier is the one for which we have one amplifier driving another amplifier, driving another amplifier. So they are in a row and we have the same signal, only one input signal and only one load at the end of the last amplifier. Right, so we see how would we deal with the frequency response, how would we plot or how would we evaluate the frequency response of amplifiers when they are cascaded, when we have multiple amplifiers connected back to back. So there can be two cases. Either they have the same FCL dominant and FCU dominant, or they have different. So we'll take the second case first, when they have different FCL dominant and different FCU dominant. For example, we have these two amplifiers. This has a different, the FCL dominant. First we'll talk about FCL dominant. If they have FCL dominant for ith, for ith amplifier is different from the jth amplifier. Any two amplifiers, they have different FCL dominant. So what we have to do is, is obvious. We'll have we will we will consider the smallest, right, sorry, we will select the largest of the two as FCL dominant with a prime on it. This means this is the cutoff frequency for a cascade. This is the max of FCL dominant for the ith. What does I means? I mean, this means there can be many. So we have the amplifier that has the largest value of the FCL dominant will be selected as the cutoff frequency, the lower cutoff frequency, the dominant lower cutoff frequency for that amplifier, for that cascade. So this prime means the FCL of the cascade will be equal to the maximum of the FCL produced by all these amplifiers in a cascade. This is obvious. And what's about FCU? FCU dominant of I, if it is not equal to FCU dominant for J, if they are not equal, we'll select FCU dominant prime. Prime means that of the cascade is equal to the minimum of the FCU dominant for the ith transistor, for the ith amplifier, where I, for all I, for all I, for all amplifiers in the cascade, the dominant cutoff frequency, the upper dominant cutoff frequency would be the minimum of the minimum value of the cutoff frequencies produced by all these amplifiers. That's obvious. One other thing is the bandwidth. The bandwidth of a cascade. The bandwidth of a cascade. What should be the bandwidth? That's also obvious. FCU dominant prime. Prime means for a cascade minus FCL dominant prime. So the upper cutoff frequency of the cascade minus the lower cutoff frequency of the cascade. That's obvious. So the last thing in this lecture is when they have equal FCL dominant and FCU dominant. This means the FCL dominant for this amplifier is the same as this and the same as this. All the amplifiers in a cascade, they have the same dominant lower cutoff frequency. And the same is true for the upper cutoff frequency. FCU dominant is the same for all amplifiers in a cascade. For that, we will use a formula that is FCL dominant prime, that of the cascade, would be FCL dominant taken from any of the amplifiers, because FCL for all the amplifiers is the same, 2 to the 1 over n minus 1, where n is the number of amplifiers in a cascade. Where n is the number of amplifiers in the cascade. Number of amplifiers in the cascade. Whereas FCL, whereas FCU dominant prime would be FCU dominant taken from of the any of the amplifiers in the cascade multiplied by square root of 2 to the 1 over n minus 1. So this is the dominant cutoff frequency. This is the dominant cutoff frequency for the case when we have all the all the amplifiers having the same cutoff frequency, the upper and the lower. Right, that's all for this lecture. And we before we finish, we have an assignment for students. Assignment is that you need to solve any 5 end problems, one from any 6 end problems, 3 from FCL, the lower cutoff frequency, and 3 from FCU in the book, in the textbook. So you have to solve 6 problems, 3 from FCL and 3 from FCU of your choice. And the deadline is, what should be the deadline? The deadline is 6th October. The deadline is 6th October. So you have to solve 3 problems from FCL, 3 problems FCU, the lower cutoff frequency, 3 from the upper cutoff frequency from the book, and the problems should be different. Different students should solve different problems. Right. Thank you. Different